Hi guys, welcome to my new series on this channel, Fast Track Your Fat Loss. What I thought I would do with this series is basically go over the fundamentals of weight loss, fat loss, getting shredded, and I thought today would be a great opportunity to delve into metabolism, what it really means. It's a term that we hear all the time, but there is just so much misunderstanding and so many myths regarding metabolism, but it is such a fundamental and important aspect of weight loss or fat loss. So we're going to get into it right after this. So, do you have a slow metabolism, or maybe you've got a fast metabolism? So really interestingly, I did a seminar not too long ago, and it was for around 60 people. And I asked the question, who in the room has a slow metabolism? And around 75% of the people in that room put up their hand. And then my next question was, what's a metabolism? Not one person could tell me. However, 75% of those people all had their hand up, believing they had a slow one. So whatever was slow, I'm not really sure, they're not really sure, but it was slow. That's what they told me anyway. So let's go into it. What is a slow metabolism? So let's first of all delve into what makes up our metabolism. And a better term for me is probably your total daily energy expenditure. So in short, we're going to use TDEE. There's four main aspects for your TDEE, and one of those is called RMR. RMR is your resting metabolic rate, and this is what most people, I think, believe their metabolism to be. And we're going to go into this in a lot more detail very soon, but it's basically your body and how many calories your body needs. And then the other three parts that not many people know about is NEAT, EAT, and TEF. So stay tuned, and we're going to go over what those three aspects are, which might be why you've got a slow metabolism. So resting metabolic rate. In the literature, we see this come up to be around 60%, or up to about 60% of your total daily energy expenditure. Now 60% is a huge amount, and depending on the activity of the person, that percentage may change ever so slightly, but let's just go for that figure for now. So what makes up your resting metabolic rate? Well, we've got organ mass, bone mass, fat mass, and lastly, muscle mass. There are some other genetic factors, your gender, but the most important thing to remember is that the bigger you are, the bigger your resting metabolic rate will be. So the question remains, does your RMR ever slow down? And is there anything that you can do to speed it up? Now we hear across the internet, blog posts, podcasts, the latest nutritional guru will be telling you how you can speed up your metabolism, and it's just become a bit of a fad really. So let's look into this, let's look what the science says, and then you can make up your own conclusion as to whether you can speed it up or if it is actually even slowing down. So does it slow down? Well, if we had a typical TDEE, or total daily energy expenditure, of around 2,500, 60% of that, which we know is coming from our resting metabolic rate, which is you just at rest doing absolutely nothing, and they are just the calories that your body needs to survive and keep functioning. 60% of that is 1,500 calories. So of those 2,500 calories, 1,500 is just being burnt over a 24-hour period, whether you're sat down, laid in bed, stood up, whatever it might be. That's just gonna constantly tick over across those 24 hours. So true or false, does your metabolism slow down as you lose weight? So in a paper by Rosenberg, they looked at exactly this. They took patients and they put them on a clinical calorie restricted diet, and then what they found that once they'd lost 10% of their total body weight, So if you're an 80 kilo guy or maybe a 70 kilo female, for example, then they would have lost 8 kilos for the guy and 7 kilos for the woman. So that's quite a significant amount of weight loss there. 8 kilos, that's, you know, 17 or so pounds. And they would have got a lot leaner just by losing 10% of their body weight. Now, over the course of that diet, what they found at the end was that their resting metabolic rate only had a reduction of 100 calories. So that's your typical average sized banana, if you want to put it into what actually that amount of calories looks like. So not really that much at all. And the reason for that, well, they would have lost some fat mass and they maybe lost a little bit of muscle mass. So really, hardly anything. And these were the people that came to the end of their diet and lost 10% of their weight. So for us, if you're looking to get in shape, that's pretty good. But what about an extreme version? Well, this is a absolute legendary study, and I thought I would show you this one. And this is the Minnesota starvation study. And this was done back in 1945, where what they did was they took guys who were already kind of normal body weight, already quite lean, and they put them in a concentration camp to see the effects of what a starvation diet would do to those people over a 6-month period. So these guys volunteered, and yeah, these guys lost around 25% of their body weight, and they weren't particularly big in the beginning. So you can imagine, and I'll show you later some pictures of what they look like towards the end. So as you can see here, these guys got extremely lean, and did their resting metabolic rate slow down? Well, again, 6 months, and they were in a calorie deficit by 1,395 calories per day, which is a huge amount to be in a calorie deficit by. And you know, they kind of the average loss was around 17 kilos, or about 37 pounds. And yeah, it was around 24% is that they lost. So a huge amount of weight that they did lose. Now, one thing to note from this, like going through this paper and looking at the specifics, they were only on a diet of 50 grams of protein per day, which is about 0.8 of their body weight grams per kilo. So that's an extremely low protein amount that they were having. And there wasn't much meat sources, it was mainly coming from vegetables and grains. So their protein quality and also quantity wasn't quite there, which it might be why they lost so much muscle mass. And as we know, going back to our previous note earlier, that muscle mass does have an effect on your RMR. But even with these guys who lost 25% of their total weight, obviously, as you can see, these guys are pretty lean. They lost a lot of body fat and they would have lost a lot of muscle mass because of the low protein. Their RMR at the extreme end after 6 months reduced by 30%. But if this ever happens to you, then you're already going to be completely shredded by this point. So it's not really anything you need to worry about. But I thought it'd just be really interesting. So in short, yes, your RMR or metabolism can slow down, but over the course of a diet, we're probably looking at realistically around 100 calories, which is nothing to really focus on and worry about. And there's not much you can do to change it, speed it up. So the best thing to do is stop stressing about it, and maybe let's look at some of those other pieces of the puzzle. So a huge part is NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and we kind of see this around 20 to 30% of your TDEE. So non-exercise activity thermogenesis, what is that? Well, it's basically any movement that you do that isn't planned exercise. So this is all the movements that you're doing, like for example, moving my hands, and you know, we can go into this a little bit more. So some of those things that make up NEAT are walking to work, walking to the shops, walking up and down stairs, you know, fidgeting, twitching, you know, working at your desk, whether you're a laborer, whatever it might be, any movements that you do is going to be NEAT. So that's kind of like, I think a lot of people don't really think about all the movements because they obviously need calories in order for them to actually happen. And yeah, even cleaning, your bedroom antics. So the more frisky you get, the more calories you're gonna burn. So another component of our TDEE is EAT, E-A-T. And you might already guess it, very similar to NEAT, but this is actually exercise, activity, thermogenesis. And this equates to around 10%. And when we sort of give these numbers and these percentages, these are across an average population, okay? So if you're someone that actually trains a lot, then this is gonna be a little bit higher, obviously. And when we look at this, it is just the calories that you burn every time you purposefully do exercise. So that's whether that's a cardio session, a HIIT workout, a CrossFit class, a bodybuilding session, whatever it might be, lifting weights, it doesn't matter. If at any point you're thinking, I'm gonna go play football with my mates, or I'm gonna go for a very long walk with the dog and we're gonna take him somewhere on a hike or something, that is where you are cognitively planning that exercise, and this would be classified as that. So kind of like your leisure activity, really. So in short, EAT is just all the exercise that you plan on doing over the course of the week. Now, as we said, this is going to be determined by the types of training that you're doing. You're doing weights, you can do a cardio. Cardio might be a little bit higher because obviously it's a constant amount of movement versus weights where you've got like some resting in between. And then you've got obviously the intensity that you go at. So if you weight train extremely hard, might burn a few more calories than if you didn't. So there's so many variables, but really it's actually only a very small part of your day and also your week, because the amount of time that you can be training for is very much governed by what you enjoy and also the time that you have. Time is so limited these days, and yeah, it's one of those things that most people train as much as they possibly can because they enjoy it. It releases a lot of stress for them and so many other benefits, but it's often governed by time. And we're going to go into why perhaps and where we can improve on this to get more calorie burn from our sessions. So then finally, the last part of your TDEE is the thermic effect of food. Now this is always 10%. The reason for that is so this is the actual amount of calories that is used when you eat food. So the amount of food or the amount of energy that's lost through the digestion process, because with any time you are sort of converting food into a fuel for your body, a little bit of that is lost because it's not a completely efficient system. So if you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, 10% of that is 200. So that 200 is just going to be lost. So of the 2,000 calories you ate, you're only actually going to get 1,800 from it. Now this brings up some really interesting points. You've got, again, so many myths surrounding food, like how often you should eat, the times that you eat, should you incorporate a refeed, a cheat day, the types of foods you eat. So in other videos, I want to go over those specifically because I think they deserve their own feature. So we're going to do, for example, an entire video on cheat meals, how they work, why they work, or are they a complete myth? But as an approximation, roughly 10% is what you're going to get. So we've probably all told someone, oh, you must have a really fast metabolism, or you might have been told that yourself, right? So let's go into some of the habits of someone with a fast metabolism. And again, at this seminar is really interesting because at the start, when I asked people who's got a slow metabolism, 75% of the room and put their hand up. And then when I said who has a fast metabolism, a couple people did. And really interestingly, what I did over the course of that seminar is I observed their behavior. And then at the end, I came to this and I basically went through every little detail of this woman's life, and at the end she was like, yeah, that is exactly me. So let's go over what, typically, and I'll give you a real world example, right? So that person with a fast metabolism, they might go out for dinner and their friends might, see them eating a lot of food, but they never put on weight, or they're always looking very lean and very sort of like fit and all that kind of stuff. And obviously it's a cause of, contention for some people, and they kind of put it down to having a fast metabolism. But then what I did was I asked her a little bit about her life, and I just sort of said, look, how often do you train? I said, I can imagine you exercise, 3 to 4 times a week. And she went, yeah, I exercise actually 5 times a week. And I was like, okay, cool. And I said, I bet you walk to work, don't you? And she goes, yeah, I do. It's about a 10-minute walk there, 10-minute walk back. I was like, okay, cool. And I said, I bet you fidget a lot, don't you? Whilst her leg was doing this, sat down. And she was like, suddenly she realized what I'd said, foot stopped. And she was like, yeah, I fidget a lot. And I said, I bet the other thing that you do is that you go long periods of the day without eating. And she was like, yeah, I think it was at 7 o'clock in the evening when I did this seminar. She goes, oh yeah, the last time I ate was at 12. So she hadn't consumed any food in a 7-hour window. That's huge. Like, she didn't snack, she didn't have anything before. One of my fellow coaches, Chris, was sat next to her and said, yeah, all I've heard all day is your belly grumbling, where it's obviously been empty. And these are all habits, not of someone who, she doesn't have a fast metabolism, she hasn't done anything to speed up her metabolism, but what she's done is that she's controlling her calories because she's not eating that often, because she's conscientious about exercise and her health. She probably makes more conscientious choices when it comes to her food intake. So in short, she's on a calorie restricted diet, whether she knows it or not, and she exercises, so obviously the calories from her eat is going to be much greater than someone who's more sedentary, who doesn't exercise, and also her NEAT is much higher because she's walking to work and being more active, right? So she doesn't have a fast metabolism, she's just, yeah, not lazy and doing a great job to keep herself in shape. But unfortunately, from her friend's point of view, she only ever sees her eat big meals and never put on weight without thinking about everything else that happens in a week that is causing that result. So in summary, you can't change your RMR. It is what it is. It's to do with your gender, your age, your body size, your muscle mass, your fat mass. So yes, it is going to slow down, but that's only going to slow down if you lose weight. And if you lose weight, then you don't need to worry because you've just lost the weight you wanted to lose. So it's kind of something that you don't need to worry about, and it's only about 100 calories. So again, don't stress about it. You also can't change the thermic effect of food. It's 10%. It's 10% if you eat 2,000 calories, it's 10% if you eat 3,000 calories. So within those normal food parameters, again, you can't change it, don't worry about it. And also you can't really change your eat, so your training, because as I said earlier, if you're watching this channel, you probably enjoy training already, and you probably train as much as you're physically able to either recover from or that your week allows. If you've got kids, a busy job, a business to run, whatever it might be, school to go to, then you're only given so many hours in the day to train, and I bet you're already kind of exhausted that. Yes, you can find ways to sneak in a little bit extra, maybe a 20-minute cardio session here or a little tag on, whatever it might be. But the biggest factor that you can change to actually speed up your metabolism is to, and speed up your TDEE, so you burn more calories every day, is to change your NEAT. So I would recommend just simple lifestyle choices. So let's have a look at what they are. So the first thing is to get yourself a step tracker. It could be a Fitbit, an Apple iWatch, a pedometer, and just track how many steps you're doing a day. And then over the course of a week, track those every day, and then you'll be given a nice average for the week. And then as long as you hit that amount or a little bit more, then each week you're going to know that that's never going to drop. Because the problem with NEAT is that as you lose weight and as you diet, then there is potential there for you to get a little bit more lazy, a little bit more lethargic. And again, I'm going to do another video on NEAT and the effects of weight loss on NEAT, and that'll be a really interesting one to delve into that a little bit more. But this is a basic overview. So get yourself a step tracker, then just find more ways to be more active. If you can take the stairs rather than the escalator or the lift, then take the stairs. If you find yourself just becoming a little bit more lazy because you're on a diet, then get up out of your chair, walk around a bit, Try and get a stand-up desk at work rather than a sit-down desk, for example. All these little things that you think, can I be on my feet a little bit more? Can I take a few more steps every day? And can I just generally be a little bit more active? Then take the opportunity, as it's gonna really help you and really benefit you if you're on a weight loss plan. Next up is control your calorie intake. There is no point trying to do all this, exercise as much as you can, have as much NEAT as you possibly can, if you're not controlling the food coming in. Because regardless of the exercise that you do, the only way that you're going to lose weight and lose fat mass is if you can create a calorie deficit. And again, I'm going to do another video on how to create a calorie deficit, but just as a sort of overview, you need to be in one in order to lose weight. So you basically need to be getting your expenditure as high as you can, bringing your food up to a point where you're now in a deficit. So that difference, that amount of energy that you're now not eating, that your body still needs, that's going to actually take that out of your body, and it's going to use that, and therefore you're going to get leaner. However, what most people do, their energy expenditure goes up, but then they become a little bit more hungry and they use it as an excuse to eat more food, and they end up in a calorie surplus. And if you're in a calorie surplus, then that energy has to go somewhere and it's going to get stored. So control your calorie intake. And then finally, just where you can, once you've done those and you still need a little bit of help, then just try and find ways to squeeze in a little bit of cardio around your weight sessions. So keep your weight sessions as standard, don't change too much there, keep them going nice and strong, but if you can tag in 20 minutes at the end, whether that's from steady state cardio, whether that's from HIIT, whether that's from a circuit, whatever it might be. And the best thing about cardio is that when you're on that machine, it doesn't matter how you do it, just look at the overall calorie outburn, set yourself a target, hit it, keep going until you got there, and you'll be sure to make progress over time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and also give me a big thumbs up. Again, any comments or questions that you have on any of this, please write it in the comments section below. I'll make sure I get back to every single one of you, and also it will give me some great ideas for future videos, future content, and find out how I can help you fast track your fat loss. Until next time.